Hi, this is my A2 Media short film review, and the film that I am reviewing today is Doodlebug. Doodlebug was directed by Christopher Nolan, who created a 3-minute psychological thriller, a black and white film. So the film starts off with a man who is in a quite estate house, you could say. He's sitting there in his vest and shorts, and he's looking around, and there's a tiny sound of cockroach walking around the room, or like scurrying behind furniture. So the film, or the short film, follows the protagonist who's trying to find this apparent cockroach, which later is revealed to be something else. I liked the film because it was very simplistic, but it was still effective. And it left questions but gripped the audience at the beginning from the start. So the audience, most people in that time who made films with a linear narrative. So it started from the beginning, had a middle, and it had an end. But this film started from somewhat a middle, where you can obviously see that the main protagonist has been through something already, and because of what he's been through, it has made like a mental imbalance for him. So because of this, the audience is really engripped in this character, because you don't know his name, you don't know anything about him, you don't know why he's here, you don't know if it's his house, you don't know anything about this character, but you're forced to take interest in him because he's your only avenue into the film. Okay. As I said before, I think it's good because it's breaking conventions because of the linear narrative. So, okay, so the first shot is a close-up. His eyes are infused with the title. So the title comes up, and Doodlebug. And with the two circles, his eyes are there, which are looking left and right in a kind of worrying manner or kind of scared manner. I think this is quite important as it establishes what genre is. It gives the audience an idea of what to suspect, because mainly what you want, especially in a short film, is to tell the audience a lot of information but in a small time, but not too much information so the audience don't know what's going on. I think it gives a hint of a kind of thriller, of a fragile person also, and also gives more information about the protagonist, which is to come later. The film is obviously a thriller. You can tell this by the low lighting within the film, even though it is black and white. The tension music, it has a very kind of eerie music that we see which is like seen as the norm today, but obviously in that time was probably seen as something that's never been seen before. Black and white, old films usually concerned with horrors. One of the best most of the classic horrors are usually black and white. Close-ups. In a lot of thrillers, close-ups are used to see what the protagonist is actually thinking. Close-ups obviously to show the emotion, to show what's going on within the protagonist. And as it is a sense of fear, you need to get what the protagonist is actually feeling. That's why a lot of close-ups is what is used in thrillers. Also, what is also a convention and what's genre specific about this film is that there is a twist in the narrative. As I said before, the cockroach, the thing that is scurrying around the room is obviously not a cockroach. It is actually himself. So but this is only revealed at the end. So while you think that there is a cockroach, you're thinking, oh, it's just an insect. Maybe this has been bothering him. Maybe because his mental instability, it's been bothering him. But because it's horror, you don't really, you do expect it, but you don't expect it as much as this. As when he lifts up the hat with what he thinks he has caught the cockroach with, it is actually himself, but in a smaller form. Okay, the iconography. The font that is used is usually associated with mysteries or old films. To do with the sound. The sound of the film, as I said before, is quite eerie. Gives like an eerie presence. Very iconic for like thriller movies. The music sets the tone, and it also allows the suspense to build up. As you also know that every technical element within a film makes the film more interesting. So without all the full technical elements working together, then the film wouldn't be without the four technical elements, without the mise en scène, without the sound, without the editing, and without the camera. The film just wouldn't be as effective as it could be. All these four elements need to be quite strong for the film to actually progress, which I will get onto later. Yeah, so now we're going to go into narrative and characters. Narrative and characters. So the significant moments that I found were in the film that actually made the film more interesting or captivated the film was when he uncovers the creature, which is himself, which I've said before, and when something appears to be behind him. So I think these both of these are significant moments are actually at the end of the film, and it is I think they're very significant because it's like a breakthrough moment within the film. You follow this man for about 2.5 minutes with very good cinematography of zooming in onto objects, of just capturing the still moment and how still the room is. And I think at the end it's kind of that eureka moment where the audience finally realise that it's not himself. But then this also leads on to Enigma, because when he lifts up the hat and sees himself, he squashes himself. But then a character, a bigger form of himself, appears from behind him and squashes him. So the enigma that is felt within the audience is, does this cycle continue to progress? Does that bigger form get squished? And does that bigger form get squished? And is everything just a smaller kind of idea of itself? Which obviously is one of the questions of film, and a question that society always looks for is, within a film you always try and ask the audience or try and question the audience an idea. You think of something and you present it to the audience, and you present it within a film, and within this film the audience can then kind of enlighten themselves, can broaden their brain, can kind of get on the same level as you are in thought process. And yeah, I think the main protagonist does drive the story, as he is searching for the creature. His movements within the with the music, creates this suspense as well as the final discovery. His insanity to fight. I think the main protagonist is the one person that drives the story, obviously, as he's the only character. I think he drives the story as he's searching for the creature. His movements with the music create this suspenseful effect that kind of grips the audience, as well as the final discovery. His insanity also adds to this whole room. Is it that he's insane, or is it that the room is making him insane, or is it that the creature is making him insane? So I think the main protagonist is definitely someone that drives the narrative, as he is the representation of the audience. The character does hold traits for someone that is supposed to be in a thriller, as he is quite he's like fighting against something that wants him, or fighting against an urge, or fighting against anything, which obviously can be seen in other films that are to do with thrillers or any film. He's anxious. He's very anxious. He's very anxious and scared, to be honest. As I've described before, his constant looking around, his constant rubbing of the fingers, his constant just shaking and just trying to calm himself down, which is something that is very iconic in every single thriller movie. He's very bare, so as in clothing. I thought this was very intelligent, as it kind of gives off a sense of unprotection. He has no protection, so therefore he is kind of open to the world. And on the final aspect that I want to do during this review is why the character is important. I find that the character is the audience's avenue into the film. They have to follow him for an interest into the life. Usually characters, usually in film, portray traits of people who are in the audience. They usually do this so the film is more engaging. If a character is more relatable to the audience, then the character feel as if this it's them in the movie. And a lot of people who go to either film or theatre go to this character as a sense of escapism. But the director's main avenue in the film is to educate the audience. To educate the audience is to make sure that the audience have a better way of life. This character has already made its mistakes so that you cannot make those mistakes. That's why I think that the character is very important, or theatre and film itself is very important, because this character is another form of yourself. He's going through trouble so you don't have to. So you can come away with thinking maybe your ideas change about a certain topic. Maybe maybe you think differently about something that you maybe felt biased towards first. All in all, I found that the film was very interesting. It broke conventions during its time. It was very gripping from the start to finish. The non-linear narrative did add a different aspect to the film that made it more engaging for the audience, as people who go to see a film do not want to keep seeing the same thing every single time. So it broke conventions during its time. The black and white added a different type of horror to it. It kind of made the audience relate it to classic horrors, so instantaneously making it good. And I thought it was a very good film. Thank you for listening.